Dear friends, I'm happy to be here with you, even through video. I want to share with you some ideas about robotics and AI, and mainly I want to point the fact that the robotics together with AI are running over time, looking for designing the best robot ever. And I untitled my speech from robot Habilis to robot Sapiens, and we will see the parallel between the evolution of robotics with the evolution of humans. My name is Ryad Chellali. I'm professor at Nanjing Tech University, and also I'm serving in different positions for different companies in China, all of them dealing with robotics and autonomous systems. Okay, so let's start with the end. Here we have the Professor Ishiguro from Japan, and he designed actually his clone, the robot clone. And through this, he wanted to show that it's possible to create the alter ego of ourselves. Robotics, or also in other disciplines, we call this the anthropomorphism. So this is the actually the quest of many roboticists. But this quest follows a very simple and basic mathematical rule or quantity called the asymptote. The asymptote fascinated me since my young age and my first studies in mathematics combined to physics. Actually, for mathematicians, if you try to cross a street according to a series of the inverse of power 2, mathematically you never reach the other side of the street. You just cross the half, half of the half, half of the half, etc. And there will be still always an infinite, very small quantity that prevent you from crossing the street. For physicists, the problem is completely different. Even if we follow this rule, the real life shows us that we can cross the street. For robotics, the point of view of mathematics is the is the major actually, and this is what we are doing since now 70 years. We are trying to cross the street to reach the anthropomorphic robot. We are close, but still far. If we try to follow the timeline of robotics, we will see that we are crossing indeed the street piece by piece. For me, the robotics is actually the capability for human to create a tool to do some tasks, and this actually is the very definition of Homo habilis. Means that the hominin, when started creating tools, typically shaping stones to eat, is let's say the beginning of robotics. But actually, the real beginning of robotics is around the 40s, when in US, Mr. Gertz, one of the engineers in Los Alamos, in charge of putting the atomic bomb in US, created a system allowing to remotely operate and manipulate hazardous nuclear product. The system was very simple, purely mechanical, and transmitting the movements of the arm of the operator up to 3-4 meters far. In the 70s, the same system actually was improved by introducing some external energy, so the operator do not use anymore the muscles as the source of energy, but we use instead electrical motors, and we inject by injecting electricity into the system, we inject energy. More than that, some controls were introduced to ease the work of the operator. So somehow we introduced a very low level of intelligence to help the operator to do manipulation tasks. If we consider the same system and we remove the operator from the loop, we have the robot arm. The robot arm is exactly the derivation of the teleoperated robot we saw before. We have the same concepts, energy and low-level controls for mainly for pick-and-place tasks. In the 70s in Stanford, the robotics team created the first mobile robot called the Shakey. And at that time, it was not dedicated to autonomous driving, but it was used as the test bed for AI theory of that time. The idea behind was to implement some algorithms allowing this system to move autonomously by avoiding obstacle and actually reaching a goal, whatever the environment is. More recently, and this is the actual trend, actually, we are more close to anthropomorphism by creating what we call humanoid robots that are somehow anthropomorphed by the biomechanical structure with arms, legs, head, neck, etc. So this is the actual trend, and the best machines these days are humanoids, and we will see why humanoids is a key point, even if we don't meet humanoids in our daily life. So the realm of robotics is exactly the quest of Ishiguro and many others is to create a machine that is similar to us. Means that the machine thinks as us, looks as us, and more importantly, acts and reacts as the humans. This target actually the holy grail, because if we have a machine that can do this kind of tasks, it can replace human in many situations. The current trend is going this way. What we can see shortly is that for the industrial robotics with the robot arms, well, we can say that this branch of robotics reached the maturity, and we have hundreds of robot arms around the world making very nice tasks, including acting having very good sensing systems, adapting to environment change, etc. But we have to keep in mind that this branch is concerned with the fixed robots. If we consider the other branch of robotics, means the service robotics, where the robots are not fixed but have to move in, let's say, dynamic and versatile environments. Here we are still working on it. There's still a lot to do. The key issues thousands of researchers worldwide are addressing, dealing with interactions. Means that how can the robot interact with the world and with people in a smart and a friendly way. We still have some mobility problems, so we cannot send our robots in every environment. So we have to think about some specific mechanics or mechatronics in general to be able to send robots everywhere. And still, these are two main categories of issues we still have to we have more orders. Okay, let's take it in a very visual way. This is what human can do. Actually. If we consider the left video, we have a baby who invented a new way to go downstairs to get his milk. Nobody taught him how to do it. On the right side, we have the state of the art in terms of anthropomorphic robot doing some crazy things, but we have to keep in mind that this robot needed some tens or hundreds, billions of dollars, and hundreds of people working for more than 10 years to reach this. So, yes, it's impressive, but still you can see that there's a lot to do. The question is it possible to create a machine that will be able to do like the baby? Means that without any, let's say, high-level knowledge, just some intuition, some mechanism of discovery, to be able to go to search for a power plug to recharge the batteries. Is it possible? And if yes, how to do it? I tried to answer to this question. I will not say it's 100% possible, otherwise I will stop doing research. So I'm optimistic, and I was optimistic and still optimistic, and actually I created a research team targeting this. This is one of the ways, actually, I will share with you the way I choose to do this job. And yeah, before going further, the core idea is I had in mind is that if we can interact with a robot in a very natural way, this would mean that the robot is reached the asymptote, actually, or very close to the asymptote. Means that our goal to have a machine that reacts as is not that far. And this idea actually came one day because one of my friends showed me this video. It's about soccer Robocop. It's a famous competition that's running every year, and you have soccer teams, robot soccer teams, competing for like soccer players. And I will replay it once again, because when I saw the goalkeeper doing this, I was laughing. And I asked myself, why I'm laughing? And the behind actually, behind this, I have the fact that actually I was empathic with the robot. Means that I consider it as a person, and well, it's a mechanism. It's not a person actually, but my brain actually did a projection on this machine, and at the end, my brain accepted it as a little boy playing soccer and doing exactly the same silly things in play. Following that, actually, I draw a project with a very basic methodology. So the core research I tried to perform is dealing with robot-human interaction, because for me it's the key. If we can succeed in having a very friendly, very natural interaction with robots, it means that we have a good machine. And to do this, I tried to mix three words: the humans, the robots, and the simulated world, or more properly virtual reality. And this is this is the crash test. If we can, or if the robot can pass the Turing test, means that if the robot is accepted uh, exactly as a human, that means that we reach the the other side of the street, and we have our anthropomorphic robot. And well, I'll go quickly to state the problem in terms of equations. To summarize, we can master the mechanisms, the robots, the controls, the algorithm, etc. But we cannot master the human. The human is the big problem. Or let's say, let's be honest, it's the big question, not the problem. And we have to consider the two facets of humans. We have the human as a set of sensors. This is to capture the information from outside. And we have the human control, means that he's or she's generating commands or controls to change the state of the world. So if we put the human with a robot, most of the questions we have to answer is about the human, the human sensor and the human controller. And this is a very, very tough task because it's not just an engineering problem, it's a transversal problem which needs the collaboration of different fields, including neuroscience, psychology, biomechanics, physics, mechatronics, AI, etc. So as you can see, AI is part of the story, but it's at the same time an important part of the story, but this importance is actually at the same level as other topics. Yeah, as I said before, when I saw the goalkeeper falling down like in a silly way, the first idea was coming to my mind is what about the empathy? How sympathetic with the robot? And this is a key characteristic in a human-human relationship. If we are empathetic with people, we can establish with them social relationships or at least some social interactions. And when we dig a little bit more, we will see actually the same theory in psychology, and it's called the simulation theory, which deals with actually the perspective taken is the psychology part of the story. Actually, if we can put ourselves in the place of others, then we can establish with them social relationships. Actually, and if we consider the empathy, is absolutely the same thing. And in neuroscience, there's what we call the simulation theory. This is very basic neuroscience. And if we can simulate the actions and reactions of others, it means that we can predict the reactions of others. Then we can establish with them social relationships. So we have three theories which have exactly the same meaning if we consider human-robot interactions. And following this, actually, I introduced the concept of what I call the anthropomorphic distance. Means how far can be the robot from a human in terms of shape, in terms of reasoning, in terms of even the the sound produced by the robot, or the, the glance, the eye contact, etc. What is the acceptable distance for human uh, to consider the robot as, let's say, anthropomorphic, accepted as more or less real? This was my big question. And to answer this question, I created a group with the different research tracks, including the sensory entities, this pure simulation technology. The second one is about interactions, so the interaction with the complex systems. The idea here is to see how the anthropomorphy of robots can affect the quality of interactions. And the last is dealing with the sensory substitution. And sensory substitution was introduced because we know that our senses are not complete, actually. So in some situations, we have to replace some senses by others. Like if we are in a dark room, we will use our ears and our tactile sense to discover the shape of the room and to avoid obstacles, etc. And following this structure, I ran different projects, ranging from basic research to very applied research, and I will just give you some hints about some of these projects. Okay. Let's move to the exams directly to save time. Yeah, as I told you, the question of the anthropomorphic distance for me is a key point. And we performed with some colleagues from Germany some experiments to see if the shape of the robot has an effect on our actually on our consideration to the robot. And we run a very simple experiment where we compare the reaction time of an observer when observing a cartoon hand which is close to the human shape, and the pure mechanical hand means that we have just the joints, and when performing physical task and a pure perception task. And the fascinating result that we had is that the closer the shape of human to the real human hand, the more we accept, actually, we have some empathy to the machine. This means that the robot of the shape not only affects our perception, general perception of the robot, but affects also our inner mechanisms in perception. Here I will introduce another project dealing with vision and the tactile sense. And the question was, is it possible to replace the visual sense by the tactile sense? Typically for blind people, the question was, is it possible to replace lost vision with tactile sense? Means that could they use a fingertip to navigate in known environments? To do so, we created a very simple system based on a mouse that can move on a tablet, so we can get the XY position of the hand. And on the left button, we replace the left button by a stick going up and down, and the movement the vertical movement of the stick represents actually the height of objects in the environment. And to get the 3D map of the environment, we use a stereoscopic system that gives the depth and thus the 3D map of the environment. And the finding of, we had different findings, but the most interesting finding was the fact that we demonstrate that for blind people, even if their visual cortex seems to be useless because there's no direct connection between eyes and the visual cortex, we showed that through the spatial memory and through the tactile sense, they activate actually the visual cortex. Means that the tactile information acquired through the movement, the vertical movement, the stick while the person is moving the mouse, the tablet, it creates not only the map of the environment, but also activates some mechanism in the visual cortex related to obstacle avoidance and that plan, which is a very, very nice result. You ask me, what is the AI here? I will say that AI was used here as a tool to analyze the brain signals. Behind we have 256 electrodes with the EEG signal, and the analysis of the signal allowed us to have this results. This is another story. Here it's more directly related to AI. And what we wanted to show here is that it's possible to use AI as a strong and efficient prediction tool to develop a very simple interaction task. The task we were targeting is the just clapping hands. You have the robot on one side and the human on the other side, typically a young kid that plays with the robot and teach the robot how to use hands to play some hand-based games. And one of this is the hand clapping. In order to be natural, and if you observe what the humans are doing, the onset of the movement of the partners is very early, and the prediction is almost always perfect in order to match the two hands. So the question is it possible to generate movement for the robot in order to meet the other hand? So to do so, we have to predict the movement very early. It means that just after the onset of the movement of the human partner, the robot should be able to predict exactly the area where the hand of the human partner will be in order to reach it in synchrony. And we used a lot of mathematics, a lot of biomechanics to generate what we call a probability map. This embedded actually in cascaded deep networks and also some time series dedicated networks. It's a variant of the LSTM network in order to be able to do so. And the results are very interesting actually. And here I just show a small video. And you can see that the robot starts the movement just after a few hundreds of milliseconds from the movement of the human, and the position is almost perfect. This is my my speech. I didn't focus a lot on AI per se, but I tried to give some hints about the trends of robotics. And indirectly showed the needs in terms of AI, the basic tools in AI to develop properly for robotics. I showed at the end some pure AI development dedicated to robotics. It's very simple, too simple actually to let us pretend that we will reach the anthropomorphic robot very soon. But the trend is there, and the works are there, and the people are there. So I think, and I'm pretty sure that we will have numerous breakthrough results in the coming months or years, allowing to have the holy grail of robotics. Thank you for listening.